Under the crimson glow of the moonlight, we see a masked man standing tall on a hill, waving his black sword. A horde of goblins jumps at him, and he dispatches them with ease as if someone dealing with pesky mosquitoes. But it seems our masked friend suffers from a classic overachievement syndrome. He's just not fulfilled by goblin slaying. The scene then changes, and we shift our attention to a merchant's wagon being chased by a mob of goblins. The merchant starts yelling for help when he spots a goblin trying to hitch a ride on his wagon. Just then, an arrow took it out. He was relieved to see that help had arrived. A group of warriors is seen to be hunting these mobs. One of the warriors says that if you see one goblin, then there will be 100 more around. The warriors then shoot a bunch of arrows and take down a lot of green goblins. All of them showcase their skills and corner all the goblins, eventually ending them off screen. But the story isn't about them. It's about a boy named Fate, who is bullied every day until one day he awakens his hidden strength. In the city, we see Fate guarding one of the gates as his stomach is growling with hunger. He then notices the group of warriors who return from their goblin killing spree, bragging about their achievements and future gold-making plans. This makes Fate jealous. It looks like Fate has already decided that he will never become an adventurer and go hunting goblins as his stats are all single-digit. His stomach starts growling again. It is then revealed that this is due to his useless skill called Gluttony. With a skill like this, he is more than happy to have a job. Later that day, after the sun sets, the party of warriors is getting some good weapons when they hear about the arrival of the 3 holy knights, known as the berserk siblings. But then an orange betrays its owner and gets him into trouble by hitting Haddo's foot. The owner of the orange quickly apologizes to him but gets kicked in the stomach. When the poor guy tries to explain, they claim it is an insult and threaten him that he can say goodbye to his head forever. Then Rafal tells the other two to stop and spare his life. The warriors are left disappointed and start comparing these not-so-holy knights with a knight named Roxy, who's a fan favorite. The scene then cuts back to Fate, who's still trying to silence his stomach's growling protest. He tries to endure it as his shift is almost over, but he was then approached by the 3 holy knights, and it was revealed that the job he has is essentially being their substitute. Rafale then gives Fate his pay for the day by tossing some coins on the ground. As Fate tries to pick it up, Haddo steps on his hand and then starts kicking him. Fate's stomach growls again, which disgusts them and they start hitting him more. Memel goes to him making fun of his useless skill and says he only manages to make money thanks to the pity of holy knights like them, and Fate should be grateful for this. Well, Fate may have gluttony, but these holy knights seem to have mastered the skill of bullying 101. In this world, there are skills bestowed upon people by the gods. As a result of these skills, those who possess bad skills are left at the mercy of the powerful ones. The knights are about to turn Fate into a punching bag when Roxy arrives and stops them. Roxy reminds them that they should be protecting the citizens instead of hurting them. But those knights didn't care about what she said and left the scene. Roxy then rushes to Fate and offers him help, asking if he is okay. Fate then notices Rafal's irritated face. Roxy helps clean the bleeding from his face, and he thanks her for her help and kindness. Roxy mentions that it is her duty to help him. Roxy asks for the flag as it is time for them to change shifts. He quickly hands it over to her and takes his leave. Before Fate leaves, Roxy tells him to inform her whenever they hurt him again. Fate, not wanting to involve her in his mess, puts up a fake smile, claiming he's used to it. Later that night, he is in a tavern having his food. The barkeep approaches him and asks if the knights bullied him again, but Fate remains silent. He said that the berserk siblings are known for their endless abuse and brutal labor, which will only lead to a nasty outcome. The barkeep says that if things continue like this, he will soon end up dead. Fate thanks him for the food and pays before leaving. Even after stuffing food, his stomach does not stop growling. He then notices some thieves climbing the walls. He rushes to Roxy to tell her about the thieves, so she decides to go and take care of it and asks him to watch over the gate instead of her place. She heads inside, and Fate hears the clashing of blades and screams. The sound suddenly stopped, and Fate thought it was over, but then he saw an injured thief running towards him. Scared of the thief knowing that he is not powerful enough, he decides to run away. But he stops after remembering that Roxy entrusted him with guarding the gates. He couldn't bear the thought of disappointing her, so he decided to be brave and face the thief with his trusty spear. As soon as he stabs him, he hears a voice saying that the gluttony spell has been activated. All his stats increase to triple digits, and he receives 2 new abilities, identification and telepathy. Fate was so confused that his mind started spinning faster than a roulette wheel at a casino in Las Vegas. Roxy returns to check if Fate got hurt and notices the shocked look on his face. She reached out to hold his hand, and that's when it happened. Fate could hear her thoughts. But the mind-reading magic stopped as soon as she let go of his hand. It turned out that Fate could only read thoughts while in physical contact with someone. Talk about an awkward superpower. She informs Fate that she will have to report the situation to her superiors. Fate tells her to take all the credit for herself because the trio would cause problems if they knew he dealt with a thief. Roxy, feeling grateful, offers Fate a job with her family, which seems like the perfect escape from the Varric siblings, so Fate accepts her offer. The next day, Fate goes to the weapon shop to buy a weapon. The shop owner asks him his budget for the weapon, but when he shows that he has only 2 silver coins, the shop owner changes his attitude, stating that he won't be able to buy a decent sword with that money. Fate is disappointed in himself as he was only able to earn 2 silver coins after working for 5 years. The shop owner then points towards a barrel and tells Fate that he will only be able to buy those weapons. He started to analyze all the weapons. A black sword caught his attention, and when he picked it up to analyze it, it started talking. The sword introduces itself as greed and also assures Fate that he won't regret buying that sword. It mentions his gluttony skill, which shocks Fate on how the sword knows about his skill. The sword explains they have a lot in common, so Fate decides to buy the sword. Meanwhile, we see Memel complaining about how Roxy hired Fate to work for the Hart family and didn't even ask for their permission before doing so. Rafale says that there are plenty of people who can replace Fate. He also mentions that it is not worth causing trouble as the Hart family is also one of the 5 great families like his own. In the meantime, Fate is seen on the outskirts of the city with his newly acquired sword. The sword continues to repeat his name as if it is trying to remember it. The sword then alerts him that enemies are coming, and Fate panics. One of the goblins jumps on him, but Fate slices the goblin in half. His gluttony skill activates and all his stats increase again. Additionally, he has acquired the skill of Strength Boost. Fate notices that this time there are a lot more goblins out there. Greed laughs and tells him if he sees 1 goblin, then there will be 100 more around. They all rush at him, but Fate parries and cuts them down individually. His greediness skill kicks in every time he kills a goblin. This leads to Fate taking out hundreds of them. Greed then asks Fate if he is still hungry. He realizes that his stomach never made a noise today. His stats increase with each kill, and when he checks his stats, he is shocked to see that some of his stats went through the roof. He even got a new skill named Strength Boost. Fate thought that people would only have the skills that they were born with. Greed explains that his skill Gluttony lets him steal stats and abilities, but he doesn't gain anything from the experience. That's why he stayed at level 1 even after killing enemies. Fate wants to know how the sword can know all of this, but the sword tells him that they are similar. The skill of Gluttony is very strong, but it is not something you want to share with others because it might turn against you in the end. Greed mentions that it would be better for him not to reveal his skill to others. They then notice a group of adventurers approaching them. As Fate was about to depart, Greed, his financial advisor, suggested that he should collect goblin ears for cash. Fate received 3 silver and 8 bronze coins in exchange for those ears. He was planning to spend all the money on some good food, but Greed, his financial advisor, reminded him to have some maintenance for the sword. He then bumped into a shady guy who was coming out of a dark alley, dragging a little girl with him. The young girl touches Fate, which enables his telepathy skill and lets him hear her thoughts and sense that she's in danger. Before taking action, he uses his skill Identify to see his stats but fails. Greed explained that the guy had a secret ability to hide his stats. Despite the risks, Fate decides to rescue her and follows the man to an abandoned warehouse, where the girl is being held captive. The guy starts laughing at the girl, telling her she'd become a toy for the Holy Knights. Fate was watching her, but Greed stopped him from moving, reminding him that they still didn't know about his abilities. But Fate decides that he is still going to save her. That was the end of the episode, and subscribe if you want to see more.